Face it, new cars are expensive. We often talk about how expensive EVs are, and with an average new car transaction price of over $60,000 for EVs, they are expensive. But there are a few EVs out there today that you can buy new for less than $30,000. That's less than half the price people are paying for a new EV today. In this video, we're going to revisit the reviews we've published on the 3 cars that you can buy today for less than $30,000. There are a few notes though. In some cases, the price is a result of the $7,500 federal tax incentive, which is now redeemed at the time of purchase, so it's the equivalent of cash on the hood. This list also doesn't include leasing. Also, each vehicle might not be available at this very moment and are either going away, so hurry up and buy now, or will be available soon. Finally, due to the nature of car reviews, and it's like this everywhere, we often don't get to review base trim vehicles. But rest assured, in the EV space, a lot of what we talk about in these vehicles do apply to entry-level models. Now, let's get on with the reviews.
The 2024 Chevy Equinox EV is the Goldilocks of electric vehicles, and not because this thing is some home-invading burglar. Little Miss Blondie is guilty of breaking and entering, criminal damage to property, and theft. Now, the new Equinox EV, on the other hand, delivers a magical blend of range, versatility, amenities, and value that will make you think it's some sort of fairy tale, though this all-electric SUV is anything but fiction. So, the 2024 Chevy Equinox EV is not a fancy vehicle, but I'll tell you, after driving it, it is incredibly well-rounded, and I think this is just the sort of product the market needs right now. And as you can see, this is a fairly attractive vehicle with handsomely aggressive front-end styling, definitely fits in with the broader Chevrolet lineup, and looks good as well. Now, there are 2 trim lines with the Equinox EV here. There's LT and RS. LT is definitely the more traditional option, while RS is a bit sportier, and that is what we have on our test vehicle right here. Going for the RS package gets you a variety of blacked out elements on the outside of the vehicle, including the wheels, of course, the mirror caps, various badges, and even the Chevrolet bow tie emblem right up front, just for good measure. So that is part of the RS trim line. Higher end versions of this vehicle also have a light bar that runs through the grille. You can't see it right now, but we should have that right here between the headlamps. Gives it a distinctive look at night, of course. Moving along the side, we can see this vehicle has very clean and uncluttered flanks, as well as retractable door handles. They are currently popped out, and you can see they operate much like a Kia EV6, for instance, and this is great for preventing break-ins, unlike the Three Bears house. The charging port here is also on the driver's side front fender, which is a very good location to have it. It's easy to access from a variety of different charging locations, and you can see it's a pretty standard CCS port, just like you have on many, many, many other EVs in the US today. A little bit fiddly with the plug, but you can't win all of the battles. Again, very clean styling on the Equinox EV. Size-wise, this vehicle is just shy of 191 inches long, and the wheelbase is a very lengthy 116.3 inches. Compared to the combustion-powered Equinox, of which this shares 0 components, I'm told, this vehicle is about 7.5 inches longer, and the wheelbase is a whopping 9 inches greater, so they really pushed those axles out to the ends to give you more interior space and, of course, accommodate the battery pack and other components. Overall, though, I'd say this vehicle is neither too big nor too small. It is just about right. Moving rearward, we can see the styling is super clean. I think it might be the best angle of the new Equinox EV here. Very, very handsome. As for cargo space, it's going to be a little bit hard to see because we do have video equipment in the back, but if I pop the hatch just like that via the rubberized button, you get 26.4 cubic feet of room behind that second row backrest. If you fold those down, however, the figure grows to about 57 cubes, which is quite impressive, though there is no frunk in this SUV. Moving inside, this SUV's cabin is stylish and surprisingly well built. Now, the Equinox EV does have room for up to 5 people, and these front seats are quite broad and surprisingly firm for for a domestic vehicle. They also offer up to 8-way power adjustability, which of course we do have on this higher end RS trim. As for the back seat, again, a generous amount of legroom and headroom, surprising really for what is a relatively small vehicle. It's quite comfortable back there, though I will say the backrest itself is just a little bit more vertical than I would normally like, but still overall quite an impressive back seat in the Equinox EV. We also have lots of other amenities, including heated outboard rear seats, great for keeping a bowl of porridge nice and warm, neither too hot nor too cold. The front seats, of course, are heated as well. We also have ventilation, which is awesome in the summer months. There's a heated steering wheel too, and the Equinox EV even offers a heated wiper park position to help cut down on snow and ice during those winter months. Winter months, assuming you live in a place where it gets cold. I mean, if you're in Florida, well, nobody cares. But Detroit, you're going to want the heated wiper park position. I'm pretty sure you're going to. This higher-end 3RS front-wheel drive model has a surprisingly rich interior. We have quite a few soft plastics, particularly here on the door panels, as well as the center console, plus some very interesting and premium-feeling textures as well. Yes, we do have a bit of hard plastic. Some of it is kind of shiny, and you do get a bit of glare from the windshield because it is quite steeply raked, but overall this interior is, frankly, very impressive. But aside from materials and other amenities like that, two things you're really going to notice in the Equinox EV, and they, of course, are right here on the dashboard. It's impossible to miss these two screens. We've got an 11-inch digital instrument cluster that is crisp and clear and colorful and very easy to read. And then, of course, right here on the center of the dashboard is a gargantuan 17.7-inch touch panel that runs a Chevrolet infotainment system that is Google-based, but my goodness, the performance this offers is just incredible. Look at how quickly I can pinch and zoom on the map like that, and there's hardly any stuttering or any delay at all. This system does seem pretty intuitive, again, very responsive. I would like a little bit more time to poke around with this, but my initial impressions, I'm very impressed by the work that Chevy has done here. Additionally, since this is Google-based, you also get access to various Google services. Google Maps, like you just saw. There's the Google Assistant for answering questions and doing other things like that. And then, of course, you have the Google Play Store for downloading apps and other things like that. So very nice job on the tech front in the new Chevy Equinox EV. And of course, with Google Maps, you also get access to things like battery preconditioning and dynamic route planning, which makes the EV life just a little bit easier so you can know when you have to charge, and when you get to that charger, you know the vehicle is going to accept the electricity at the fastest rate that it can. Now, there is plenty to like about this infotainment system, but there is one major downside, and it's Apple CarPlay, which is not offered. So what makes this new Equinox EV tick? Well, there's absolutely nothing exotic here, but GM has done a fantastic job of delivering very good hardware at an extremely affordable price. Underneath my feet right now is an 85 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. That's 85 kilowatt hours of usable capacity, and they guarantee that for 8 years or 100,000 miles to a 75% state of charge, which is really very good coverage for an EV. Of course, this SUV is available with either front or all-wheel drive. If you opt for the former, you're going to get up to 319 miles of EPA estimated range, which is frankly fantastic. Opting for 4-driven wheels instead is going to come with a slight range penalty, though it's really not that bad, only reduces the number to 285, which again is still very good. As for DC fast charging performance, this vehicle tops out at 150 kilowatts, which is a good, though of course not segment-leading performance these days, but it's still enough to get you about 70 miles of range in 10 minutes, which is very good. I asked GM about a 10 to 80% figure, but they did not have one handy. As for level 2 AC charging, this vehicle does up to 11.5 kilowatts, so at home you plug into your level 2 charger, you're going to get about 34 miles of range added per hour of charging. Anyway, that energy reservoir provides really pretty good on-road performance. Front-wheel drive versions of the Equinox EV here feature 213 horsepower and 236 pound-feet of torque, which is enough to get you from a standstill to 60 miles per hour in about 8 seconds, which is perfectly adequate for everyday use. All-wheel drive versions, of course, have a lot more get up and go. They are rated at 288 horsepower and 346 pound-feet of torque, which drops that 0 to 60 time down to about 5.9 seconds, which is legitimately quick and fast enough to probably outrun law enforcement if they're on your tail for malicious destruction of property and breaking and entering, which of course Goldilocks is very guilty of. Out and about, this Equinox is quite nice to drive. The steering wheel is super thick with a reassuring grip to it, and the steering feel is surprisingly heavy. There's a lot of heft to the wheel, which helps this vehicle feel quite planted. I mean, as it should for anything weighing more than 5,000 pounds. A Mazda Miata, this thing is not. As for the ride quality, it's also very good. You do get a little bit of grit occasionally coming up from weather-beaten road surfaces, also smaller suspension inputs. You will feel those as well, but for the most part, the body remains very flat in turns. Also, it does a very good job of filtering out roadway harshness, which is quite impressive for a vehicle of this class and price point. This Chevy also offers a couple different regenerative braking settings. You can have it off, you can have it on normal or high. I've currently got it on high. I can turn it off with this shortcut here on the touchscreen, which also brings up a separate menu item where you can very easily set the regen level. Again, high is what I've got it at right now, and it's quite aggressive. It does take a bit of getting used to. You might be happier with the normal setting, of course, which you can select here from the screen. If you do have it off, there's another regenerative option. We have a regen on-demand paddle right here on the left steering wheel spoke, and you can pull that, which basically kind of operates like a second brake pedal. It'll take energy from the drivetrain, put it back into the battery pack, slowing you down in the process. So it's just another way of bleeding off speed. And just like other modern vehicles, this SUV comes with loads of standard advanced driver assistance technologies. We've got automatic emergency braking, there's lane keeping assist, automatic high beams, rear parking sensors, and much, much more. I'm serious, the list just goes on and on and on. They have loaded this Equinox with equipment. Now, of course, if you want to spend a little bit more money, you can. There is a range of luxury amenities that you can get in the Equinox EV. Things like a lovely high-definition 360-degree camera system, very nice, blows what Toyota offers completely out of the water. You can also get a head-up display in this vehicle, which we don't have. We also are missing the rear camera mirror. We just have a standard piece of glass. I really like those. Some people don't care for them. I really love them because they give you such a wider field of view behind the vehicle. So you can get that on the Equinox as well. And then, of course, this vehicle is also offered with GM's fantastic Super Cruise, which you've heard me say before, but I'll say it again. It's probably the most transformative driver aid to come out in like the last 20 years. It's really fantastic. And it works very well. You can use it on some 400,000 miles of limited access divided highway in the US and Canada, though by 2025 they're increasing that number to some 750,000 miles of roadway, so they're making a great system even better. So there you go. That is a very quick look at the 2024 Chevrolet Equinox EV, which is an incredibly well-rounded electric vehicle. Now, our high-end 3RS front drive tester here checks out for about $51,000, including $1395 in destination fees, which is a little bit pricey. However, the upcoming 1LT trim, which is scheduled to launch later this year, is going to start at just about $35,000, which is an incredible price. But wait, it gets even better because the Equinox EV here is also eligible for the full $7,500 federal tax credit, which makes it an absolutely incredible deal, a true Goldilocks option that is just right in so many different ways. In for review this week is the mildly updated 2023 Nissan Leaf. Now, I'll be honest, there are some significant reasons why you shouldn't buy this pioneering electric vehicle, but paradoxically, despite having some significant shortcomings, this might actually be the perfect EV for you. If you are hoping for groundbreaking technical innovation, sweeping design alterations, or massive interior upgrades, I have bad news. not a lot has changed with the Leaf for 2023. The grille shape has been tweaked, and so has the front bumper molding. Those headlights now feature black inner finish as opposed to chrome. SV Plus models roll on new 17-inch wheels that have, at least to my eye, kind of a 1980s look. The Leaf's front and rear deflectors are now black instead of blue. The rear diffuser and spoiler have been modified. Inside, there's a fresh Nissan badge on the steering wheel and a new startup animation, and that's about it for changes. It's not new, but one other feature worth pointing out is the Leaf's charging port door. This thing is super sturdy and the action is incredibly slick. In fact, it feels better than the hoods of some luxury cars. Most EV charging port doors are made out of the absolute cheapest, flimsiest plastic known to mankind, and they flop around like the flippers of a dead dolphin, but not here. Now underneath you do get a couple outlets, including a relatively rare CHAdeMO fast charging port.
Whatever, dude.
No, not Chad Emo, it's CHAdeMO. Although I do hear he was a skater boy, and apparently she said, "See you later, boy," something like that. I don't remember the lyrics. Keeping things simple, the 2023 Nissan Leaf is offered in just two flavors, S and SV Plus. The base car comes with 147 horsepower, 236 pound-feet of torque, and a diminutive 40 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion battery pack that gets you just 149 miles of range. The SV Plus, which is what I am testing here, hits a little bit harder with 214 horses and 250 pounds of torque. Naturally, this Nissan is not going to outrun a Lucid Air, but the performance is a lot stronger than those numbers suggest. This up-level model also features a larger 60 kilowatt-hour battery pack that gets you an EPA estimated range of 212 miles. Through that CHAdeMO connector, the Leaf SV Plus should be able to DC fast charge at a maximum rate of 100 kilowatts, which is honestly laughably slow for model year 2023. But regardless, Nissan says this vehicle should be able to hit an 80% state of charge in 1 hour. This vehicle is getting on in years, but the interior still holds up pretty well. Now, there are a couple unusual design choices, but everything is sturdy and the materials are a bit nicer than you would expect. I'm a stickler for seat comfort, and I've got to say, these front bucket chairs are wonderful. They are supple yet supportive, and they're a nice height above the floor, so it doesn't feel like you're sitting on the ground with your legs straight out in front of you. Unfortunately, the back seat is not quite as nice. It does have a decent amount of legroom, but for taller passengers, the headspace is a little bit lacking. One odd thing is the design of the Leaf's interior door panels. They've got hard plastic up top here. They've got the lower armrest that is barely, and I mean barely padded, and then there's this big swath in the middle that is nice, squishy, and soft, and I'm just like, why? I want the soft plastic here and here, not in the middle where my elbow literally never goes. When it comes to tech, we've got an 8-inch touchscreen right here on the dashboard that is very easy to both see and reach. Unfortunately, though, the infotainment system that lives in there is absolutely ancient, though it is intuitive enough and reasonably responsive. Additionally, this car comes standard with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, though neither one of those smartphone mirroring systems can connect wirelessly, so make sure you bring a cable. SV Plus models come standard with an intelligent around view monitor, though unfortunately, the video feeds are grainier than a silo full of wheat. Not good. Still, it's probably better to have a low quality 360-degree camera system than to not have one at all. A favorite feature of the Leaf's interior is the design of the climate controls. We have physical buttons right here on the dashboard. Such innovation! What a time to be alive. And just like the touchscreen, these are very easy to see and reach. Plus, I love the fact that I don't have to go poking through the infotainment system to adjust the fan speed or turn on the seat heaters. Every 2023 Leaf comes standard with Nissan Safety Shield 360, which includes a whole bunch of features I can never remember, so I'm just going to read off the script here. We've got automatic emergency braking, there's lane departure warning, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, automatic high beams, and we've got also rear automatic braking. That's the one that always gets me. Who wrote this crap? Next, let's compare the Leaf to some other EVs, including base versions of the Chevy Bolt, Hyundai Kona Electric, and Mini Cooper SE hardtop. As mentioned earlier, the base Leaf S has 147 horsepower, which doesn't compare very favorably to these rivals. The Bolt has an even 200 ponies in its underhood stable. The Kona is graced with 201, and even the Mini is more muscular with 181 horsepower. Range is another weakness of the base Leaf, which can only go 149 miles between charges. The Chevy is tops in this comparison, offering 259 miles of range. The Kona is basically the same, and the Mini is rated at just 114 miles on a charge. Pricing is one area where the Leaf S holds its own. Now, you don't get as much, but this vehicle is not as expensive as some competitors, checking out for just shy of 29 grand. The Chevy goes for around 26.5, the Hyundai is a few bucks more, and the Mini checks out for just about $35,000. All these figures, of course, include destination charges. Naturally, the Leaf SV Plus is a much better match for these competing EVs. It offers a more than competitive 214 horsepower and delivers an okay 212 miles of range. As it sits, our tester checks out for $37,000, though the car is still eligible for up to a $7,500 federal tax credit, which drops the price to less than 30 grand. As I alluded to earlier, nail the accelerator, and the Leaf moves with unexpected authority. This is a punchy little EV, despite its relatively low horsepower and torque figures. And I think EVs like the Tesla Model S Plaid, the GMC Hummer EV pickup, and new Lucid Air Sapphire have sort of conditioned us to expect just cosmic levels of performance from electric vehicles, but as the Leaf here proves, a little bit does go a very long way. One downside to immediate off-the-line scoot, of course, is torque steer, and the Leaf has plenty of it. You've got to fight the wheel to keep this car going in a straight line when you're really on the power. A one-pedal drive mode is offered, which you can access via a convenient hardware button right here on the center console. Now, this system works as advertised, maximizing energy recuperation and allowing the Leaf to roll itself to a stop. It's just too bad the brake pedal itself is very rubbery and vague. The Leaf steering is light and relatively quick, so it gives this car a nimble feel, although there is absolutely zero feedback from the front tires. I mean, not that I expected any. Like most modern vehicles, this EV steering is kind of like something in a video game. Making highway drives just a little bit easier is Nissan's excellent ProPilot Assist adaptive cruise control system with lane centering, which is standard on the Leaf SV Plus model. Now, this is not a hands-off system like Super Cruise or Blue Cruise, but it's still a huge help. ProPilot Assist, of course, adjusts the vehicle speed based on traffic conditions and keeps the vehicle locked in the middle of its lane, which greatly reduces your workload on long trips. Speaking of doing things, I'm about done with this video, so let's wrap things up. The Leaf's strong acceleration is a high point, as are its cushy front seats and available ProPilot Assist. Unfortunately, other aspects of this Nissan are not competitive with more modern EVs. The range is not great, DC fast charging isn't, and much of the tech, from the infotainment system to that 360-degree camera, is quite outdated. So, should you get a 2023 Nissan Leaf or avoid this car like that suspiciously friendly barista at your local coffee shop? His name is Daryl, and he wants everyone to know about his collection of pewter figurines. Anyway, to answer the question, it all depends on how you drive. This car is great for local, around-town use, but the Leaf would be very frustrating on longer trips because of the slow charging. Newer EVs have undeniable advantages, but this car is still well-built and pleasant enough to drive, so it is worth considering as long as you're aware of the shortcomings. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up and make sure you are subscribed to the EV Pulse YouTube channel. It helps us out so much. It keeps the lights on for all these hard-working folks, and we will bring you more great vehicle reviews like this one, plus charging challenge features, first look videos, and a whole lot more. It may not look like much, but the 2023 Chevrolet Bolt EUV is one of the greatest values on the road today. And here is why this Chevy is the electric vehicle to get if you are on a budget. There are plenty of things to like about this battery-powered crossover, but a new lower price is the #1 thing in my book. Now, this happens to be a 2022 Premier model, but for 2023, Chevrolet slashed the price of both the Bolt hatchback and the Bolt EUV. They dropped it by $6,300, which makes both of these cars a screaming deal, especially in a world with out-of-control inflation and ever-rising costs. With no options, a base 2023 model starts at about $28,000, including $995 in destination fees, which is a screaming deal. Now, a similarly equipped 2023 Premier trim version is going to go for about $37,000 and change, which of course is still a great deal. Another reason to love the Bolt EUV is the interior. This cabin is roomy, it's comfortable, and surprisingly well built. 2 color schemes are offered. You can get black or, as we have here, light gray. There are lovely soft plastics here on the dashboard and door panels. They're of a low sheen, so they look pretty premium. And the build quality in here is excellent. Everything fits together as it should and feels really tight, except for the standard issue GM control stalks that feel like they're gonna snap off in your hands when you go to change lanes or turn the wipers on. This Premier model's front chairs are decent. They're not the most comfortable things I've ever sat in before, but they are pretty good. Plus, they're heated and ventilated. Plus, passengers in the outboard rear positions have butt warmers too. For adult passengers, there's plenty of headroom and legroom in the back seat. And the cargo area might surprise you. There's more than 16 cubic feet normally configured, and then nearly 57 cubes with the rear backrest folded. No, it's not going to outshine an S-Class, but GM's designers did an excellent job with the Bolt EUV's interior, and the same can be said of this vehicle's tech. Every version comes standard with a 10.2-inch central touchscreen that is home to an infotainment system that absolutely flies. Not only is this multimedia array very intuitive, it is incredibly responsive. It almost never stutters or lags as you're clicking on icons or swiping through menus. Naturally, this vehicle also comes with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Both smartphone mirroring systems can connect wirelessly, which is always super convenient. Plus, we have a wireless charging pad in here, so your phone is always fully juiced. The main touchscreen is augmented by a smaller 8-inch digital instrument cluster. This is very crisp and easy to read. Plus, the menus are dead simple to cycle through, though it does look just a little bit cheesy. 2 other things I really like about this vehicle. One is the backup camera system. It is high definition, it is super crisp, it looks amazing, and it has a whole bunch of different settings you can adjust so you can see exactly where you're going. I love that. The second thing that's great, physical climate control buttons right here on the dashboard. I can adjust the fan speed, turn the seat heater on without having to dive through 6 menus in the infotainment system. I love that. But without a doubt, my favorite tech feature in the Bolt EUV is Super Cruise, which I am using right now. This, of course, is GM's groundbreaking hands-free driving aid. This technology, of course, debuted a few years ago at Cadillac, but GM is finally spreading the love around to its other divisions, and this is great news for value-minded shoppers that are looking for an EV, even if the Bolt EUV isn't necessarily a great road trip car because of its slow charging. Now, this is not the latest and greatest version of Super Cruise. The vehicle will not automatically change lanes, and you can't tow with it. I mean, not that anyone's going to drag a trailer with a Bolt, but still, the system currently works on some 200,000 miles of approved roadway in the US and Canada. That is limited access, divided highways. And when the conditions are right, you just hit a button and then you can sit back and relax because the vehicle is basically doing all of the work on its own. It's controlling its speed and it's doing the steering to keep you locked in the middle of the lane. And I've got to say, it works brilliantly. Now, of course, you do have to pay attention. There's a driver monitoring camera on the steering column there that keeps track of what you're doing, so you can't go down and look at your phone, you can't eat a ham sandwich or whatever. You've got to be ready to take over because there are situations where the car will request that you drive. Let's say it's snowing and the lines on the road are covered. The camera can't see them, the camera can't keep you in the middle of your lane if that's the case. You also may be going through a construction zone. The system may ask you to take over again at that point. So you've got to be active, you've got to be aware of what's going on. Still, this system is immediately confidence-inspiring. About a minute after turning it on, you're sitting back with your arms crossed because it's just that good. It feels rock solid and it's incredibly smooth. GM knocked it out of the park with Super Cruise, and I've got to say, this system is way smoother than Ford's Blue Cruise, which tends to wander a lot in its lane. It doesn't like turns in the road, and it disengages a lot more frequently than Super Cruise. Another reason to love the Bolt EUV is that it offers respectable range. With a full battery, the EPA says this vehicle should be able to go 247 miles between charges. Now, that's more than a 2023 Nissan Leaf SV Plus. The Chevy also tops nearly every version of the Toyota BZ4X, and the BZ4X, of course, is a slightly larger vehicle than this, so you would expect it to have more range, even though it generally does not. As for other rivals, the Hyundai Kona Electric and the 2023 Kia Niro EV both have slightly more range than this Chevy, but the difference is just a couple miles. As you've seen, there are plenty of reasons why the Chevy Bolt EUV gives you the most bang for your buck in the EV world, but it is not perfect. Aside from these control stalks that feel super cheap, there are a few things about this vehicle that I do not like, and I'll tell you all about them as soon as I remind you to subscribe to the EV Pulse YouTube channel for more reviews like this one, plus smart discussions and analysis of the latest EV news. Make sure you hit that like button as well because it really helps us out. As for things I could do without, this Chevy's driving dynamics are totally meh. I mean, there's nothing to love about the steering, which is numb, the brake pedal feels rubbery, and the acceleration isn't all that great. All that being said, the Bolt EUV's performance is perfectly fine for everyday use. This thing has 200 horsepower and 266 pound-feet of torque, which is enough for it to get from 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 7 seconds, which is perfectly adequate. But I've got to say, the Bolt EUV never feels zippy the way other EVs do. There's never a big surge of torque. It just kind of moseys along when you hit the accelerator. The Bolt EUV comes with an 11.5 kilowatt onboard charger, which is very good. AC charging at home from a 48 amp circuit will get you about 37 miles of range per hour, and that's quick enough to completely fill the battery in about 7 hours, which is pretty standard stuff these days. Unfortunately though, this car's DC fast charging performance is another thing to dislike because it tops out at just 55 kilowatts, which is laughably slow for the 2023 model year. Of course, your mileage will vary, but GM claims that's still enough to get you about 95 miles of range in 30 minutes. And for that reason, the Bolt EUV is far from an ideal road trip vehicle. It's much better suited for local, around-town use. Finally, one other thing I don't care for is this Chevy's styling. Now, in the grand scheme of things, looks don't matter that much with cars, but from nearly every angle, this crossover is kind of a frump. Tall, narrow, and stubby, the proportions are just not all that flattering. I'm sorry to say, this vehicle is about as stylish as a baggy pair of overalls. Other electrics like the Ford Mustang Mach-E, Tesla Model Y, and even the upcoming Chevy Equinox EV are all far more attractive, at least to me. Thanks to its lovely cabin, excellent interior tech, respectable range, available Super Cruise, and clearance sale pricing, I think the 2023 Chevrolet Bolt EUV is the best deal in the electric vehicle world right now. If you don't mind the looks and aren't planning any cross-country trips, take one of these things for a test drive. I think you'll be impressed too.